it's the problem of like owing someone something.
Yeah, but
and
that's
it is
an
how I grew up.
internalized problem.
Yeah, that is how I grew up though. Because my dad always told me, "Don't let no man like."
Yeah, no, daddy
Don't let-
messed you
yeah.
up.
Well, no, because most men, it doesn't matter. Most men, you will become indebted to the more you accept from. It doesn't matter how you
I
feel,
think so
what you
as well.
think, what you believe. Most men.
Not if you're showing the reciprocity.
But the thing is, the only okay.
You
now,
only
I
become
wanna-
indebted
I wanna-
when you keep taking.
No. I'm saying, if you're showing the reciprocity, yes. But the problem is, which I think is being misunderstood, is that you have to understand that 90% of men, this is a Rico stat, have a problem receiving themselves. So because we have a problem receiving,
Definitely.
we continue to give without the expectations of receiving because we're so used to suppressing receiving.
I don't disagree with that.
So then internalizing this all, you are in debt to us, but we don't fault you for it because we're the ones actually doing it.
No, you do fault. It just comes out a lot later and
I'm
in
just
a
saying,
different
we don't-
emotional way.
We don't fault you for it. But when we then bring it up, however long it gets built up, it comes off as an explosion, but it's not saying that you owe me. It's just more so that we feel like you're ungrateful.
Yeah, that's because the lack of reciprocity.
Well, it's not the lack of
If
reciprocity.
the reciprocity was there, that feeling of you're ungrateful would never exist.
But the reciprocity
gratitude is
isn't. But the
active
thing
the
is,
entire
no.
time.
You have to understand the reciprocity is not in one shape, in one form, right? So like a lot of men have a problem receiving. So it's easy for you to have a reciprocity or demonstrate reciprocity in, maybe being more emotionally there for me because I'm so fucked up from not being able to have an equal playing field that emotionally I'm fucked up. Like that's the thing that it really takes a hit to. So that's the only thing that you can kind of fix, or not really fix, but aid. Now the problem is once that man starts to figure that out, that is no longer of the same value to him. So that's no longer of reciprocity. Well, like before it was, let's say like if I gave you $10,000 a month and you stroked my ego and made me feel like the man, okay? But really that's only coming from a simple fact that I've been insecure. Now a man finally becomes secure, right? And himself, he does his own work. Maybe he goes to therapy, reads a couple self-help books, whatever. He finds himself. Now I'm a secure man. You, what I valued that $10,000 for your reciprocity has now diminished.
It's just shifted. It hasn't diminished.
Well,
and the problem is as we grow, we forget to continue to stay up on top of our partner's love language. See, most men, they have a hard time receiving things from women. They don't have a hard time receiving the two love languages that hit the most, which is quality time and acts of service. Usually physical touch is in there somewhere because men like to be touched, right? But it's typically acts of service and quality time. And that is the
You
problem.
think men-
Women will sit next to their man like this instead of giving him the quality time.
You think
The
that
more
men don't
comfortable
get quality
women
time?
No, I think they do. But what I'm saying is the
Desired men,
can I use a Rico stat?
Okay.
Right? Majority of men,
Uh-huh.
their love language comes with words of affirmation, acts of service, meaning you are doing things for me. I come in the door, you meet me at the door and you give me a hug. That's an act of service, right? It doesn't mean you take off my shoes and you rub my feet. It could mean that, but it doesn't always mean that. Little small acts of service, baby, I brought you a drink, or like, hey, do you want some champagne? Or, those are all acts of service. And when I say reciprocity, women forget to pour back into their man in that way. And now the man just feels like his cup is like on empty because it's not being filled back up with that reciprocity. Not necessarily financial, not necessarily like, am I giving you, and this is also why I always tell my students don't accept allowance, because he'll pour $10,000 into you, your ideas, your business, your dreams, your goals before you could take it, put it in your pocket, because now you have even more to show for that 10 grand because he doesn't physically see the outcome of that money. Men that have money like that, they're builders. They are innovative. They are builders. That's what they do. They're like, okay, if I put this here, this is going to grow. If I plant this seed, this is going to grow. And most women just sit as a little dirty little seed in the soil and they just never grow. And so as time goes on, there's no flower, which means there's no tree, which means there's no fruit. So, I mean, even the good book says you can tell the leader by the fruit that it bears, right? The tree by the fruit that it bears. You're bearing no fruit. You didn't even grow carrots or nothing, not even honeysuckles, nothing.
But you got to remember, why are men, all right, so let me ask you this question. I know the answer because I'm a man. Of
course you know the answer.
But for a woman, right, why do you think men like to build? What do you think is the end result?
It's a couple things. Well, that's a two-part question. So why do they like to build is because of a few things. Number one, pressure in society has just made men the dominant ones and that they are the protectors and providers. But it goes back as far as the Beauty and the Beast and the little cartoons and TV shows that we watch as we grow older. The man is always the superhero and the savior. They're always the captain. Until they dropped a Wonder Woman, they were the Batmans and even the sidekick was a dude. You know what I mean? There was that masculine role has already been set for boys. So when they become men, they just kind of feel I'm either going to be that or I'm going to feel insuffice. And those are the guys that play the background that can't quite get to that level. You know what I mean? They're like the butler instead of the Robin or the Batman. You know what I'm saying? They're like the servant guy.
But the butler built Batman.
But he can't be Batman.
No, but don't.
And there's a difference.
But this is what I'm trying to explain.
Right? The butler ain't getting no money.
What? The butler is living just like Batman.
He's living a good life.
What do you mean?
Off of Batman's tails.
Off of Batman's father, not Batman.
Now we getting really into the story for real.
But because
I don't know Batman.
Mind you, out of all my superheroes growing up, not mine, out of all these superheroes, Batman was my favorite. Like, I ain't like all the fake shit, Superman flying in the air.
So that being said, that's to answer your question, that's where it comes from. It comes from the grooming of entertainment industry. It comes from the grooming of just men always being shown that they lead and they're masculine and they take the ranks and they're supposed to be this superhero.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Why they build was part two of the question, right? You said you said what's the end goal of the build, right?
Yeah. Well, what's the satisfaction part, I guess?
The satisfaction part, I feel like, and correct me, man, if I'm wrong, but has to be a differential between every man. Like, some men view success as like money and power. Other men view success as like creating something that they could say, I did that, or I made that, or look what I did. Those are the men that my students
self-serve their ego.
Those are the men that my students tend to find. That's why they build them and pour so much into them, because they want to be, and this is why women have a hard time with this, because they're like, I don't want no man that's going to tell me, throw it in my face and say he built me. You can say whatever you want. I'll sign the paperwork. I don't care. Like, you can say you built me. You can say you did whatever. But thank you. Thank you for building.
It is.
Right?
It
because
is ego.
It could have been. It is. It's an ego monster.
On both sides.
On both sides. Absolutely.
No, on both. But because the thing is this. So this is the thing. Men innately have a hunger to conquer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's not about being a superhero.
No.
This is why they can feed kids video games and have 10,000 levels with different bosses and different difficulty levels, because when a man conquers something, he feels good.
Yeah. Hunt, fish, build a house. That's
a psyche. It's not even grooming. It's just innate. It's a natural thing for us, right? It doesn't matter if he's an undesirable man or incapable man. He's going to find something that he can conquer and win and stick to it, right? So that's just one. Part two is when men are builders, right? Because not every man is a builder. But when men are builders, most of those men tend to build for the ability to utilize what they've built.
Correct.
Right? So a lot of men that are...
That was a gem, actually.
A lot of men that are builders just to feed their ego to say, I built that, are usually men who are not validated. So they have to find validation in something else. It's important to be careful, because those unvalidated men who build like that just to self-serve their ego are a ticking time bomb. And at some point, it's going to go south. I don't know when. Everyone's different.
I agree to an extent. I feel like all men look for, and I keep going back to the word reciprocity, right? All men look for that gratification in some way, shape, or form. Some just find it in what they've poured into and invested into, growing and becoming this amazing stock or this amazing business or this amazing best-selling book or whatever it is. And they say, people that can't do teach. So when a man doesn't feel like or feels like the route that he took didn't allow him to fulfill those certain levels of achievement, he'll pour into a woman in hopes that she fulfills those levels of achievement so that he feels better, that ego thing, right? But when women don't do that, that's when the ticking time bomb happens. Because it's like, yo, I'm giving you time, I'm giving you effort, I'm giving you energy, I'm giving you money, I'm giving you all the resources you need, and you're still dropping the bomb? You're still going into Dior? You still don't have anything in your name? You still don't have a business? You still have nothing? And I've given you all of this. That's where the ticking time bomb comes in because of the same root word, reciprocity. That reciprocity does not always lie in the action of a woman to a man. Sometimes it lies in what she does for herself that allows him to feel like that was a fruitful investment. Ain't no man dropping thousands of dollars on a woman, even hundreds of dollars on a woman that has an end goal. It's like hundreds come in when you're trying to get the cheeks, right? Like you'll impress your $300 dinners, whatever. But beyond that, that is a man that is trying to reap the reward of what I'm about to turn this woman into. Like I'm about to turn her from this into what I see her potential being. And those men are businessmen. Those men are CEOs, entrepreneurs. They understand what I put in time, work, effort, energy, and I get this out. And when they do all that and they don't get that out, that's where the time bomb comes in.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think that would be considered reciprocity though. I do find it to be true. I don't think you're wrong.
It's
but
a form of exchange, but it's not
reciprocity.
It is reciprocity.
It's not any
because a man has that piece of him that can only be fulfilled by the things that he physically has created and built. Like with you and your children, right? You're like, I made that. That's me. You know what I mean? And you take pride in that child and you nurture that child and you
until they become an adult.
That's the only right.
Then,
that's the one thing that a man absolutely must have is fulfillment at the end of the road. And even if that fulfillment doesn't come along the way, when you raise your kid, even if they're a badass kid, when they grow up and they go off to do whatever amazing thing that they do, you're proud of them, right? When they become the Tom Brady, you're proud of them. When they become the flake who is a failure and the talk of the family, you see that relationship becomes very broken and the exchanges are different and there's no longer, the love is still there, but it's not a love that you can touch, feel, touch and see. It's a love that you feel because I made that, but it's like, I made this fucking flake. You know what I mean? You grew up to be a flake. This is what happens in relationships with women because men aren't designed to be nurturers and healers and all of that. So they're like, hey, I'm gonna give you the resources. You go do your thing and then come back as a whole brand new, come back as a Grammy. Don't come back as like a nomination.
But most men don't want to build something and have no access to it. So if I was a man and I'm a farmer and I go ahead and I say, you see all these trees over here? We knock this all down, we level it out, we plant the seeds, we fertilize with great soil, and then somebody else comes in and tells me that the owner of this land or the neighbor of this land has now bought this land, and I have to leave my investment here, leave my efforts here, and walk away because I can't see eye to eye with them. That's when a man can have an issue.
100%.
Right? So when it comes to investing into anything, that's why it is a form of reciprocity. I'm not disagreeing, but it's not a mutual exchange. Now, when it becomes...
I don't think anything in a man-woman relationship is a mutual exchange. Outside of, and even sex.
I think there's always a mutual exchange when you have a balance, right? And a balance is if we can both leave with similar to what we came with, that's when it becomes a mutual exchange. Now, if I leave feeling like I was the one that was duped, I overspent, I overbuilt, and now I have no access to what I've built, because most men look at their women as a savings account. That's the only reason why he's building her.